What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure the subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I put a brand new video. Normally on Wednesday, we have our Trust the Bank podcast. We're pushing that recording back. I think we're going to be able to do it either late this week or it'll be this weekend. So make sure to stay tuned for that. We'll definitely try and go live as well. But in today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the press conference or the luncheon or whatever you want to call it, the pre-draft basically discussion that reporters have with members of the Baltimore Ravens organization, guys like Eric DeCosta and such. And you get to kind of find out a little bit about what the plans are and things like that. So things that were talked about. First off, not Lamar Jackson. That was established very early on. If you were watching it, you might have gotten a good laugh because they kept trying to ask Lamar questions and they're like, we're not talking about that. Stop asking it. But there were some good topics that were brought up, and things like Patrick Queen, fifth-year option, looking at the draft class, and all that type of thing. But the biggest thing that I took away from it was a question that was kind of talking about Todd Monken, and hey, what are you looking for? How are you going into this scouting process and looking at the NFL draft in terms of offense when you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator? And they were like, they sat him down and they talked about how, first thing we did was we brought in Todd Monken into the room. We were like, what are you looking to build? Let's kind of go through it. And the biggest thing was versatility. And I think that's versatility in a multitude of ways. First off, Todd Monken is versatile. He's done multiple. I don't want to keep saying multitude anymore. He's done a few different things at the collegiate and the professional level where it's not, okay, this is my system, right? He's not running the Shanahan system. He's not running, a particular thing every single time. Instead, he mixes it up, which I think a lot of Ravens fans will like. But the other aspect is getting players that are versatile. They can do different things and doing that in the offense. And I want to take that a little step further. Let's look at the draft and let's look at some players that I think are really good at being versatile, that I think are good fits with the Baltimore Ravens that the Ravens could target. So and this is for offense. There are defensive players as well. I can talk about that in another video. I'm going to start ramping up the draft videos, talking more about players rather than free agency signings like Odell, because I want to get as much pre-draft content out there as possible, because I love talking draft. I love talking prospects. I love talking players. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about some guys that I think could be really good for the Ravens in terms of their best ability being their versatility. And again, this is for the Ravens. So I think, potentially tight ends. There are some very versatile tight ends. I love Washington out of Georgia. That's a weird sentence to say. But again, I don't think the Ravens are going after a tight end. So I don't think it's a huge need. I'm not really going to talk about it. I'm not talking about any quarterbacks. Again, could we use a quarterback if Lamar leaves? Absolutely. I don't really want to talk about that right now just because I feel like focusing on the other positions is what the Ravens are doing. So let's jump right into it. First off, I don't think this is a player that would be selected, but it would be Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan Robinson is the best, he's the best offensive player in this class. I think there are a couple of guys you could maybe argue that are better overall in the draft. Guys like Anderson, guys like, maybe Michael Mayer. I love Michael Mayer in this draft class, but Bijan Robinson, very good. I don't think he's going to be drafted by the Ravens, but first-round player, very good hands, route running, and rushing the ball ability. Can do it all. But at the same time, I don't think the Ravens are going to use a first-round pick on a running back. So I didn't want to talk about him too much. I just wanted to mention his name as like, okay, this guy's crazy versatile. If they really want to get crazy, they can go after him if he slides there. I don't even think he'll slide there. I think he'll get taken top 15. That's my expectation. But first guy, well, let's go with a round one player, and I think the most versatile wide receiver in this draft class is Mr. Zay Flowers. And Zay Flowers is my favorite wide receiver in this draft class. He's not my number one wide receiver, but he's somebody that can do multiple things. And I know that the Ravens have had discussions with him, and him being from the Northeast, going to school in Boston College, they're probably watching him a little bit more than maybe than a guy like Jordan Addison playing out west, where those USC games. I live on the West Coast. I watch Stanford football. I watch Pac-12 football. That's where I watch the most. Those game times are brutal. Those games start at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's 10 p.m. Eastern. It sucks. There's a reason it's very difficult to win any like national awards or anything like that from the West. Shout out to Caleb Williams for doing it. It's because people don't watch. People on the East Coast aren't able to watch because the game starts so late. So I think Zay Flowers definitely has, that potential to be drafted by the Ravens. I see plenty of mock drafts where he goes there. But versatility is this with Zay Flowers. After the catch, he's very good. That's kind of his specialty. But he can run the intermediate, he can run the short, and he can run the ball. I think that's something that people are missing out on is, he ran the ball over once a game his not rookie year, his freshman year in college in 2019. I think he had over 30 rushing attempts. That's something where, yes, they dialed it back in college, probably because he was becoming more of the wide receiver one. But that you can look at that in the NFL and be like, hey, he did this a little bit. Again, it's not something to do every time. This isn't an every down thing, similar to, I think, Devin Duvernay and rushing the ball at Texas, where it was like, okay, he did it a little bit. Maybe we use that every once in a while. And I think he would be able to use that ability because their whole offense was get the ball in his hands quickly, whether run it, jet sweeps, screens, or having like long developing routes where, they know he's going to get open at the end of it and they can hit him 15, 25 yards down the field. And then he can turn upfield and use that, after the catch ability and make people miss. So I think he's a really good player. I think the Ravens are absolutely looking at him and potentially taking him at 22 because he can do it all. He's a good player. I'm not trying to negate, his ability or anything like that. Again, I don't think he's not my number one pick. He's not my number one wide receiver. But if you're looking for versatility in first round wide receivers, he's probably your guy. I think Quentin Johnston's too raw. I think JSN, yeah, he can play inside, in the slot. He can also play on the outside. I prefer him on the outside over the slot, but he can kind of do both in that sense. That's all right. But I think if you're looking for someone, it's probably Zay Flowers as being able to do multiple things. Next up, this isn't a round one guy. I think this is potentially a round three, and this is somebody that I would love if the Ravens take him. I don't think he'll slide to three. I think he'll go in round two. But if he does slide to three, I think Tyjae Spears could be a very good option in terms of versatility. I think if you're looking at pass catching, do it all backs in the draft, he's the second best. And that's behind Bijan Robinson. I don't think he's the second best running back in the class. I think that's Gibbs. But I think if you're looking for somebody that is a true versatile pass catching, running the ball option, Tyjae Spears can do it all. He lit up the Senior Bowl. He had a very good combine. And he's someone where it's like, okay, this is, first of all, it's in a position where the Ravens can use it. This is not something that we would go out and be like, oh man, we don't need him. We need a third down running back. I like JK. I like Gus. I like Justice Hill, but I don't think Justice Hill is a third down running back. I think he's a special teams player. I don't even think of Justice Hill as a running back. I think of him as an emergency running back. If an injury is to occur in a game, maybe he gets a couple of carries. That's nothing, not to say he's bad. It's to say he's really good at special teams, and that's where he fits in the NFL. That's his role, and that's where he makes his money. And that's why he got extended or re-signed. That was why. It's not because he was a good depth running back. It was because he's great on special teams. And then JK and Gus, their contracts are expiring, and it's not worth paying two running backs non-rookie salaries. It's just not. I can't think of a single team where you would be like, okay, yeah, let's pay both running backs. I don't care who you have. Unless you're paying one a vet minimum, which Gus and JK are not going to make. They're better than that. It's not worth it. It's just not. When you're paying a running back, it's already difficult to win. I don't hate the idea of paying a running back, but it's paying too much to running backs and overvaluing the position. I think the Ravens are going to have to move on from one of them, and I don't know who it's going to be. So why not get somebody that works with either of them? I think JK is the better back. I think we're going to rock with him this year. So if we had Gus Edwards as a backup first, second down guy, and then hey, we get to third down, Tyjae Spears is able to come in and even in two running back sets, come in out of the backfield, line up in the slot, do those things that we see out of those pass catching running backs that dominate in the NFL. The guys that win your fantasy football leagues. Think about those guys in the PPR leagues, right? The Alvin Kamaras, the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys, let's see who's another really good pass catcher. Those are kind of it in terms of like true pass catchers. There's other guys that catch passes, but Tyjae Spears is a true pass catcher. Like you could probably line him up at slot and he could run routes and he could make plays for you. That's valuable. That's versatility right there. I think Todd Monken would be able to do a lot with it. So those are kind of two guys that I'm thinking about, after watching, kind of the whole conference. Those were my thoughts. Those were my, hey, these are players that fit what I think the Ravens are maybe trying to do in terms of scheme, in terms of philosophy. Again, they're not my favorite guys. Like I think Tyjae Spears is a beastly running back. I prefer Dwayne McBride. I just really like his game more. I like him more, even though I think Spears will go before McBride. But in terms of looking at from what the Ravens are looking for, I think those are two guys that really fit what they're trying to do. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. Is there any other player that you guys think, hey, this guy as well could be, that versatile fit? Let me know. I'd love to look into him. Maybe I don't know him. Maybe I do know him. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I love that guy. That guy would be really good. Let me know. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content. And I'll see all of you again tomorrow.